It's movie time. I don't know if I want to do an intro. Yeah, whatever. Hi, my name's Brain Muffin, also known as Bryon Lape, depending on what you want to look at. So several weeks ago, this is a video that's been requested weeks ago. Oggs for President, several others on YouTube channel. Had Eric Lauterbeck of the World Class BSers also requested this in person. Captain America, Civil War. And let the dog chew really loudly there. Why I didn't like it. I mean, it was a movie that my son rented several months ago, and I tried to watch it, and it was just, I couldn't take it. I couldn't even, whatever. And then the World Class BSers did that. Well, Jeff did his top list of Marvel movies, and at the top of this list, perhaps one of the best superhero movies ever, as well as his top Marvel pick, was Civil War. And I was absolutely beside myself. I'm like, most of the time I agree with these guys, or I can at least see their point. And granted, Jeff went through his top 5. He didn't go into a whole lot of detail of why he liked it. And I was like, okay, maybe I missed something. So I'm going to give this movie another chance. Actually give it a full chance. So on the Facebook page, as well as in YouTube comments, I said, I will rent the movie again. I'll get it from Netflix. I will sit through the whole thing. I will not storm off in a wine fest, and give it a fair shot, at least as fair as I can, considering I'm prejudiced against the movie that I didn't like. So I did, rented the Blu-ray, watched the whole thing, and I was a bit harsh on the movie. I would call it a crap fest now as opposed to what I said before, but to me it is not even close to being in the top 5 Marvel movies that I've seen anyway. But it's not the worst. I mean, The Amazing Spider-Man is there's been Fantastic Four and the Hulk much worse. So why didn't I like it? In part, it might be that I'm not in the target audience, and that may be part of the issue here. I mean, I remember, the last time I remember buying a comic book was in the 70s. And I was really into Superman, Sergeant Rock, and a few other DC. I had some Marvel. I think we had some Spider-Man and some Thor, perhaps. Don't remember any Iron Man that far. In the 90s, I did look at some graphic novels. In fact, when my wife and I first got married for about the first year, our next-door neighbor in the apartment complex was doing background art for various portions of a graphic novel of Piers Anthony's Incarnations of Immortality. I don't remember anymore now. The first one. And I got to look at some of what he was doing, what other artists were doing. It's pretty cool. And so I've been somewhat aware of where comic books have gone over the last few years and the rebooting them. And, but I'm not in depth. And that may be part of the problem. Now, I understand the movies are not following the Civil War comics particularly, but there may be a level there that's missing that I don't have. So I'm going to say that right off. So that may be part of the issue. But I was just by going through the movies, and Age of Ultron I've also not seen, and this may also be why I have this gap. So we start with this, the Avengers are kind of starting to argue with one another yet again, and that's the problem is this. The biggest problem I have is it feels like a script that I've seen for the 3rd time now. It felt like we've already had the Avengers, and we've had them fighting each other literally. We had them, taking down things out of the sky. Then we had Winter Soldier with Captain America, where he's fighting his own team, and I know a lot of it was Hydra and things like that, but some of it wasn't. And it just feels like a redo. Like we've been here before. We've already gone over this territory. They've had arguments about Bucky before, and it just felt too retread. So somehow we had characters that didn't seem to be doing what they normally do. For instance, Captain America. He's created by the military. He's the all-American soldier, and all of a sudden he's anti-government. And I saw no motivation for that character development anywhere. Then we have Tony Stark, who in Iron Man 1 and 2 is telling the government, go pound sand. You cannot have this. He's telling, Senator Gary Shandling, up yours, forget it. And he's also a showboater. And I understand he's had this relationship with Pepper and they're trying to kind of come to terms, and maybe he doesn't showboat so much. But right off the bat, I'm not buying into the character plots where they are. And although I can understand and appreciate this wanton destruction that they keep going through and people getting killed and wanting to figure out a way to take these people down, these various mutants and everything else, without collateral damage or so much collateral damage, having the UN and be a part of that, as corrupt an organization as that is, I really don't buy any of the Avengers bowing to the UN at all. Near the end of the movie, so you have this movie which to me is completely unmotivated until the fight with Captain America and Iron Man near the end. Now granted, this has been a month or so ago that I've been planning this, so hopefully I remember all my points. But their conversation as they're fighting, they kind of come to terms and then suddenly they're going at it. If that was the beginning of the movie, forget the UN, forget all the government, what they should do with Bucky and Captain being conflicted. Now, Captain America should be going through a serious conflict here between his best friend and his want to do right. And really, this part is missing. And having Iron Man fill that in, Tony Stark be on that side is not, it doesn't feel right. Captain America should have this internal struggle the whole time. And he really doesn't. All he wants to do is save his friend. I think, excuse me, I think if those two aspects are at the beginning, and then perhaps near the end or midway, some kind of government agency comes in or is pushing for a resolution. If you all don't solve it, we're going to solve it for you type thing. Because if you want to involve the government, but have the UN right from the start, and then for the way the teams chose sides, didn't buy it. So the whole plot to me is just, it's too forced, doesn't work, it's unnatural, there's not a progression leading up to this. Now we talk about the movie itself. Thematically, it's okay. The music's alright, the scene locations and stuff were pretty good. The special effects were completely horrendous. They were just awful. And here's where I need to kind of give a little bit background information as to why I say things like this. I am not only a photographer, but I also do 3D art and have been doing it for a while. Now, I don't create my own characters, but I do some of my scenes and everything else. And with ray tracing, I had for years had an issue of understanding how light worked in ray tracing. I had to do I got books on it. I understood all the math, but exactly when does something reflect and when it doesn't, and when it, you can put lights to force things. And it wasn't until I came across Paulo Ciccone's reality plugin for Daz Studio where I could use the Lux Render, which Lux Render is it's a physical model, and light reacts the way you would expect it. Now, as a consequence, you can see lights that you normally wouldn't see in ray tracing, but now light works exactly the way I expected as a photographer, and I can even set up my cameras to use f-stops and ISO settings and shutter speeds and all kinds of things like that, white balance, on the fly. And until then, I don't have a problem. So when I'm watching something, and I've also done a little animation, not much, but animations of human beings or humanoid, we'll say, they don't look natural ever. They're always wrong to me. It's not how people walk. People are not so consistent in their movements. And if you watch people, yes, they've now done more stop motion with more points and everything else, but they're coming at it the wrong, these are computer scientists are coming at it the wrong way, because those points are usually only on joints or in between joints, but it's the in between, the way the hair moves and the muscle moves and all that stuff that is so unnatural when I watch these things. So when I'm seeing what are supposed to be humans, they may have special powers and things like that, and you see them in this you can tell when they're fully CGI, when they're on a blue screen background. And again, here we have this fight. They're complaining about all this collateral damage, and they're in an airport that's what, functional but is suddenly empty. There's no reason why there shouldn't be people all over this thing, and yet they're out there fighting and wanton destruction. I guess because no one dies. There's no innocent life bystanders being killed, but there is billions of dollars of property damage. It's okay. I'm like, this is against the whole thing for the movie. This shows Captain America and Iron Man don't believe in anything they're saying. The only thing Captain America believes in is saving his friend, and that's it. And we don't have competing ideas. We have an ideal, and that's it. And then when you see these things, and you see how it's lit from the outside, and then you see him swinging through, and the lighting is not consistent, and then the movements aren't right, I'm completely removed from it. A lot of people are, oh, that's so cool. It's crap, and it's going to be crap for I don't know how many years until we can model humans properly. It's not just the uncanny valley. It's not just that the eyes look. I've done some photos and of scenes and things that people think are real people, and they're not. So I know photorealism is very what the amount of effort it takes to get, and I appreciate it. They don't have the time on these films, especially doing animation. It's one thing to do a still. You can have a still take 300 or 400 hours to get right. Imagine if 300-400 hours a frame, you'd never be done with a movie. You know, a lot of these movies are 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second, especially IMAX, 30 frames per second. Good grief, a 5-minute segment would just take, I don't want to do the math, but a long time. So anyway, so there I am. I don't believe this fight. I don't see why we get this fight, and then I don't believe the action in the fight. So there's no motivation for the characters to be fighting like this. If anything, it would be Thor and Captain America, not Tony Stark. Tony is too much of I'm gonna do my own thing. I have to be the center of attention. Thor is this authoritarian thing that I could see Thor and Captain America going at it as to whether or not we contrive with the government. Thor being an alien and a demigod, God even helps to emphasize he would be anti-UN. I'm not bowing down to any earthling. And Captain America saying we had to do it, but Captain America's against the UN, and that's not motivated to me. Why? Why did he suddenly switch? Where is he making this change from being a pro-law and order government person to no, we need free will and free choice? When that's been Tony's motto altogether. So we've got 180 degrees that happened sometime, and now they're supposedly fighting. And I don't buy the whole choosing sides nonsense. The things that Spider-Man says, where Tony says he thinks you're right, you think you're right, and it makes you dangerous. Well, that makes them both dangerous. And to have Captain not say that to Spider-Man, can be turned around. There's a missed opportunity there, which means the plot just keeps getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and we're really just got a movie with fight scenes and explosions and running around in between, and how cool can we make it, and that's it. So there is no real development, there is no real script, it's just special effects that are fairly lame, no story, no motivation, no cohesive arc, terrible special effects, music was mediocre. So the whole thing is a big bundle of crap, in my opinion, and that's why I didn't like it. And maybe I'm just too old and too cynical or expecting too much from these movies. Maybe I should just go, I was mildly entertained, yes, but I don't go for popcorn movies and this pop culture nonsense that I'm like, there was so much potential here, so much they could have done, and they did nothing with any of it, and it was a big disappointment. So that's why I don't like Civil War. I will probably see the second one when it's on video just to see if it wraps up, and maybe I need to go see Age of Ultron or rent it and see if it fills in any gaps. Because really, the thing that they create, I can't remember the character's name, but they create, and he's in Civil War. If anyone ought to be asking questions and trying to understand what in the world's going on, it'd be him, because he seems to kind of be the innocent in all this of, why are you guys fighting? This is silly. But those questions are never addressed. They're never asked. It's just a fight. It's just an ego trip for both of them, and their egos are going to get a bunch of people killed if they continue this way. Maybe, who knows? And it also feels like it's a bowing to parent groups who are seeing these movies are getting more violent, and there's lots of people that are dying off screen we never see. There was one of the complaints about Superman when he took the life of the criminal whose name I'm blanking on at the moment, Zol, and the dogs are going crazy. And it might be this to kowtow too much, and that makes it even worse for me because yes, I'm a parent, but I get it. It's fantasy and whatever. So there you go. If you still have some more questions, Oggs or anybody else, please put in the comments below. I'll try and address them either in the comments or in a future video. Let me know what I'm missing, where we can fill in, and I'm not saying I'm going to hate it forever. There's a lot of empty scaffolding here that we can fill in, and maybe it makes sense at some point. But to me, it's just all special effects, which really fall flat. The lighting's wrong in them. The colors are inconsistent. The actions aren't right, and it's just sad all the way around. So, all right, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for clicking like. And as always, thanks for subscribing. See ya.